Hey everybody, sorry for the delay there. I was having some internet issues. Anyway, today we are going to talk about, this is Joel with Inflatable Office, and today we're going to talk about website conversion optimization. It's a very important topic that is not talked about as often as it should be. So we're going to dive into it today, and I got an expert here. Phil from Inflatable Office, he and Marissa build the websites for all of our clients. And so, Phil, why don't you just tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Hey there, everybody. Most of you guys know me, but my name is Phil. I'm the lead front-end engineer here at IO. And a little fun fact about me is I like to fly racing drones.
What's a racing drone?
Actually, it's a kind of drone that has an FPV or first-person view camera on it, and we actually fly them and race them around race courses.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it's a,
Um,
a fun but expensive hobby.
right. So we need to sell lots of websites to fund Phil's hobbies. So
Yes, we do. And my wife would agree.
great. Okay. Well, we're gonna do this live. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them, and we'll answer those at the end. So just put those in the comments. Also, we'll link. We're giving away a free website. It's a $1,500 value. So we'll put a link in there near the end of the webinar too. So make sure you sign up for that if you haven't yet. Also, a while ago, I think it was the beginning of this year, we did one on SEO optimization techniques. So if you're interested in that topic, you can see that one. I'll link that as well. But we talked with Ian, and he had lots of great advice for us. So anyway, let's go ahead and dive in a little bit. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is why is conversion rate optimization so important? And for my thoughts on it is you got to look at the ROI, return on investment. And, if you're thinking about buying, say, some equipment, let's say you spend $5,000 on new equipment for your business, which you definitely got to have equipment. But, hopefully it would bring in, let's say, $10,000 in revenue in the following year, which would be a 200% ROI, which is great. But if you compare that to conversion rate optimization, it may take you only a day, maybe 2 days of time, let's say $500 worth of time or money that you spend on it. And you can get easily from just that much effort, a 10% conversion lift. If you're doing 100% or $100,000 in a year in revenue, that's a $10,000 increase in your revenue. And it only took you a tenth of what it would cost in equipment. So it's got a really great return, and there's diminishing returns on it. So the more you do it, the less it's going to become critical. But if you haven't spent very much time on it, then you will definitely get a high return on it. So the way I've always done it is I spend a little bit of time on it, and then I'll look at the results after a month, and then I'll spend some more time on it. And, it's just a continual process. But after a while, after you've done a good job, you'll get less of a conversion lift on it because you've done all of the basics. So, anyway, I think it's worth doing. If you haven't spent much time in it, you should definitely get into it. So we're going to, talk a little bit more about some of the ideas. Start with basic ideas that we have that you can use now and that will help you out. So, Phil, what comes to mind for you on some of the basic things that need to be talked about for conversion optimization?
The first thing I want to talk about is actually to go back to the benefits for just a moment. Is the biggest thing that you have to remember too isn't just the tangible dollar and cents benefits, but the intangible benefits that are harder to measure, like the trust that you're kind of garnering with your customers when they're on their websites. The fact that your website is often the first impression that you're going to make on a prospective customer. So those are things that you can't necessarily put dollars and cent values on, but are still extremely important and things to keep in mind. So just, the kind of basics that we really want to keep in mind when we're looking at our websites is it unique? Does your website have a factor that makes it different from your local competition and the other people who are kind of trying to call for the same customers that you are? Does it have a clear call to action? Is it easy to navigate? In other words, is it easy for me to do exactly what you would want me to do with your website? And then probably most importantly, is it friendly on mobile? That's the biggest thing I see neglected day to day when I'm navigating the internet. That's anywhere from 70 to 90% of your traffic is going to be on phones, is going to be making their buying decisions from, a mobile device. And so the biggest thing you can absolutely do is making sure that you are focused on that mobile design.
Good. Yes, I agree. I mean, you're the guy that's making your website is using a desktop computer, so he's primarily going to be testing on there. So you want to definitely check that on your phone because that's what your clients are going to be using. Um, yeah, I've seen sites before where their header is so large that when you scroll down, you can't even use the site on your phone. So simple, basic things, but you got to check those. And I would agree with you, Phil. Having a real clear brand and process, just simple stuff that is often overlooked. If you've got crazy colors going on all the time, people won't know where to look or what to click on next. They won't know, like, well, what's the next step if I want to go with this? And so that's why it's always great to have like a call to action, we call it, but like a button that says click here for the next step type of thing, so that it's always available wherever they're at on your site. They know, well, this is the next step if you're ready to move forward. And another thing that I've seen a lot is you guys like to add lots of custom questions to your quote forms. And 1 or 2 is probably okay, but when you get to 10, people will not want to fill it out. So what I would recommend doing if you need a lot of those type of questions answered is to keep your quote form as simple as you can, and then send a follow-up email after they submitted the quote to get more data. And so we have a way to do that with Inflatable Office, but if you need help setting that up, you can reach out to support. But that way you can gather just the simple stuff you need just to get a hold of them and get an idea for their event, but you save all the detailed questions for later.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, there's actually hard numbers that you can put on that. Recent research suggested that after a certain point, every additional question you have on a quote form is actually going to decrease your conversion by up to 9%. Meaning, so it is critical that you keep any sort of point of contact with that customer streamlined and simple.
Good. Okay. Yeah, so we talked about having a clear process, making sure it's not too difficult, available on all the standard devices like phones versus desktop. Keep your form simple. Have your call to actions as clear as you can and have them on a lot of places. So again, that would be like having a button in your header as well as having it on the product page, maybe in the footer as well, something that's going to get their attention. You can also experiment with different ones. So you might have one that says get a price quote, one that says book now, another one that might be sign up for a newsletter, depending on what you want to accomplish or what your goal is. But some people will like to, if you're real creative and getting into, you could write a blog post about how to host a fun party or what party supplies you'll need. And then you could have a call to action that says sign up for this document or something like that. So you're trying to gather email addresses, but whatever your goal is behind it, there's you got to make sure it's clear with the button.
Absolutely. And something to build off of that point is when we're building websites here at IO, the biggest thing that we're looking to do is keep all text, especially on your buttons. You want to avoid passive voice in your text. You want to make sure that all the words you're using are active verbiage and that they elicit not just a sense of movement and action, but also of urgency. So that's something to really, really keep in mind as you keep playing with different ideas, but always be building towards something that builds the most sense of urgency as possible with your wording.
Okay. One other thing that I've noticed a lot is if you have different advertisements you're trying to do, like you might have one that's targeting corporate clients and one that's targeting backyard parties. You want to make sure that the landing page that they go to matches, right? So if your homepage is all about kids bouncing in the bounce house and your advertisement is for a wedding or corporate event, you might want to have a special page on your website that's more tailored towards those type of events. So when that ad will land them on the page that makes sense to them. Because if they click on your ad and it looks like it's for bounce houses for kids, they might be like, oh, that's just, they're not going to have what I need and leave. So the landing pages, you probably only need like a couple, but you want to make sure they match whatever your advertising goal is. So Phil, do you want to show them a little bit more details about the web page and what you can do with them?
Absolutely. So let me go ahead. I'm going to pull up a live example of our premium preview site to kind of give everybody a visual idea.
Yeah, so if you just go to demorentals.com, you'd be able to see this yourself. But
yep. And here's the URL up here, and you can actually see this yourself. The biggest things that I just kind of want to point out in terms of the design that we went with here is keeping things simple. That's the underlying design principle that we live by here is keep it simple. So in that vein, I truly believe that standard layouts, when it comes to your website, are always going to be better than novel. Don't give in to that idea of trying to build a crazy unique website, because 9 times out of 10, it's going to decrease trust from your customer. You're looking for just a really nicely built, clean website. And on this website,
what Phil's trying to say there is you want something that's unique, but don't mess with the things that people expect. Like people expect the header to be at the top or on the left. They expect there to be a menu bar, horizontally. If you adjust those standard expectations for a website and do something crazy where they can't even find the menu links, then you're going to run into problems. So the unique side of things should be carefully done, not to confuse people.
Exactly, and so from there, the biggest thing that we like to dwell on here is what we call above the fold. And that means that the part of the website that someone is going to see as soon as they load the page with no scrolling. And the biggest things we want to make sure of is that there is a very clear call to action somewhere in that space, as well as some verbiage that gives us a very clear headline. So in this case, as you can see, we have a Book Now button that gives them a clear, active movement to move towards our final end goal, which is getting them to book. But we also have nice, colorful, eye-drawing headline here. And again, if this was a personal website, I would definitely suggest having something more personalized, because we're trying to just show you how to do things here. This is very general. Typically, you'd want a very descriptive, kind of keyword-rich headline of a subheadline that would kind of maybe be aimed at your geographical area or your demographic. It's kind of hard to say per website what you want to do, but this is an area you really need to focus on and really personalize for your particular niche.
Yeah, and I would concur and just say that if it's not clear from your logo what you guys do, your headline needs to identify that. So for example, ours says demo rentals. Well, people might not know it's bounce houses. So it's important to mention that right there in the headline, so they can, in the background picture there, it also makes it more clear, oh, this is a bounce house company. So
exactly,
somewhere, because people will land on your page that don't know what you do, and it needs to become clear quickly for them.
Exactly. Other things that are really, really important, and I see this quite a bit across the net in this particular area of bounce house websites, is you really need to make sure that you're using very high quality media. If try to get video, especially high quality, like such as drone video, is excellent. That really helps to increase the perceived quality of your site. On this site, for example, we have a nice, super high quality image that we can use as a background splash. It has faces in it, which helps to increase the trust on the website. It's got a lot of color and a lot of pop. And again, that all helps to create a nice visual flow. It helps to guide the eye, and it helps keep the person moving towards our call to actions, which again, right here, we have another Book Now. And then another thing I want to point out that we do really well with this site, and that is very important, is you want to make sure that you're focusing on just one thing with each section of the website. So, at this first part, we're very focused on just letting them know who we are, what we do, and that they can go ahead and book now if they want. But if they want to keep moving, then we can just kind of keep building on that one piece of information at a time.
Cool. Yeah, and as Phil said earlier, the media, a simple thing you can do is to make sure you've got high quality pictures for your inventory. If you've got inventory that doesn't have a picture, or it's low quality, you want to make sure you get that updated. And you can just have your staff take pictures when they're drying the item out or cleaning it, or on inspection day is a great time to go around and just snap pictures of everything, and then get those updated.
Absolutely. And I would also suggest trying to get a lot of event photography. Especially if you don't get too many faces or things of that nature where it's going to be tied, or maybe you need permission, but just try to get a lot of high quality media. The more you have in your stockpile, the better, because you can always come back to a site that's already built and backfill it with more media later on.
Yeah. Cool. And I don't know, did you want to have it show anything else on this website, or do you want to?
I do actually. Just one final point I think is extremely important is what we call social proof. typically on a website where you have more to draw from, you're going to do more, but just we have a very basic one here, and that's just testimonials that are getting drawn from an inflatable office. But I just want to make it very clear, just make sure that your website has as much of this as possible. Study after study has shown the efficacy of having people's peers tell them what is good. So, the more that you can show that people on Google, Facebook, and etc. like what you are doing, show that and make sure that you showcase that on your homepage.
Great. Okay. Let's move on, and we'll talk next about advanced techniques you can use. So again, I would just emphasize, make sure you got those basics covered. If you're missing any of those basics, they're going to make a way bigger difference than anything else that we're about to talk about. So yeah, so if you've gotten all those things covered, then you'll probably be doing pretty well. Next, you can go into advanced ideas. The most popular of which is, do I show pricing on my website or not? And there's 100 opinions on that. And I would say in general, it just depends, right? If your competitors are all showing their price, then you might need to. Otherwise, people might not want to bother filling out the form. If your goal is volume and I'm just gonna drop off lots of bounce houses, or people are gonna come pick them up and I'm just going for volume, well then you're probably gonna be the cheapest, and it makes sense to show your prices. If your client goal is the big corporate company and your prices are higher price and you're gonna be higher price than all your competitors, well, you might not wanna show it. You can have opportunities to sell them on your quality and your service and other things that they might not be thinking about when they're first coming to your website. And if they never fill out a form because they see the price and they leave because of sticker shock, well, you lost an opportunity to convince them on why. So it just depends on your situation. But that said, you can still try those things out and experiment with it. What do you think, Phil?
I would say 9 times out of 10, when we build websites for IO clients, we really tend towards showing prices. The reason we have found that that's what clients largely expect. We see some bounce rates from them just not being there. But again, that's all got to be weighed against the stuff you were just talking about. There's no one right answer for prices. Yeah. And really, if you're an IO client and you have an IO site, talk to me or talk to Marissa about it. That will be, and let us look at it on a case-by-case basis. But if you're trying to answer it for yourself, 9 times out of 10, you're going to want to show them.
Okay. Yeah. And we typically went the other way in the past, where we would say, use that instant price quote as a way to gather your leads. And it is a good way to gather. I'm assuming they're willing to fill that out. So you gotta try both, or you gotta make that decision and just kind of see. So I have an example. Go ahead.
Yep, that's the value of experimentation. That the one thing I want to make clear is, don't be afraid to experiment, man. Even the stuff I've laid down as rules, there's nothing hard and fast in this business. You got to be afraid to play around, or not be afraid to play around.
Good. I had one other idea for that. So if you decide you wanted to try not having prices on your website, then you have to make sure that you're focused on gathering that lead information as fast as you can. And they're going to want to get that price. They're willing to fill out a form in order to get the price, because maybe they've been recommended you by a friend or something. So they're willing to go a little bit farther. So if they get that price and they're like, whoa, that's way higher than the other website, I'm going to leave. This is where an opportunity you could have. If they don't book within a certain amount of time, you can follow up with an email that says, hey, I've been authorized to give you a special discount. Which one are you going to buy? Are you going to buy the $150 bounce house or the $200 bounce house that's been discounted to $175? Right? You're going to go with the $175. It's only a little bit more, and it's got a higher perceived value. They're going to think, well, I'm getting a higher quality, cleaner item or whatever. So, you can use that technique to try to gather in people that haven't booked right away. So we have some of those tools at Inflatable Office where you can send an automatic follow-up email only if they haven't booked. So again, if you want to try that out, you can reach out to our support team. Another advanced idea that I've had before is creating a sense of urgency. You'll see that a lot on websites where they're like, hey, there's only one left. There's 3 other people looking at this site. And so you can use things like that to try to get them to book. And same thing with that idea I mentioned earlier with follow-up email. you could say, hey, this is a special, you can get, $20 or 10% off or whatever today only, or something like that, to kind of give them that push they need to book with you. I don't know, Phil, do you have any ideas of, since we use WordPress at Inflatable Office, there's thousands of plugins that are available that may do
Yes,
some of this stuff for you. Are you familiar with any?
absolutely. And I'm going to sound like a broken record, but Elementor is great for this. That's why, I mean, we love Elementor here. Elementor has a great template system, and there's pop-up, and pretty much everything you need to do for that type of stuff is cooked right into Elementor. So again, I mean, I can't emphasize enough, dig into it, get to know it. And from there, if you find more specific needs, reach out to us, and we'd be more than happy to kind of help you wade through the tens of thousands of WordPress plugins out there and recommend the high quality ones for more specific use cases. But yeah, 99% are going to get solved just by Elementor.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you don't want to hire us for it, there's lots of people that know WordPress as well that I'm sure you could find other developers too.
Absolutely.
So another great idea is pop-ups. Maybe not a great idea. It just depends. Sometimes they work well. And I know that I've seen lots of stats saying, hey, if you add a pop-up to your website that says, hey, get this discount if you leave your email or whatever, something like that, they'll increase conversion rates. So again, your type of customer might find that really annoying and leave as a result. I don't know. But that's another thing you can test. Again, I'm sure there are many plugins that will let you do those sort of things.
Yep. And I would, and for, again, Elementor. And if you're not invested into the Elementor system, look into one called Hustle. That provides some good pop-up marketing tools.
Okay. What about live chat, Phil?
Live chat, my favorite free recommendation would be one that's called TalkTo, which is TAWK.TO. It can be a little complicated. It has a little bit of a learning curve associated with it, but it proves to be an extremely valuable tool. It tends to be only our larger clients who use it, but everyone who uses it sees a huge amount of value out of it because people love that personal touch and feel like somebody's there on the website to hold their hand.
Yeah. Again, yeah, there's lots that you can do. WordPress makes it even easier to do these things. If I was to try to implement live chat on a non-WordPress site, it would be really hard.
Oh yes,
there might be tools out there that you can plug and play with any type of site, but it makes it easier anyway. Do you have any other thoughts on advanced tips that we can offer?
The biggest things is don't get too caught up in the advanced stuff. It's fun to talk about, but you really need to focus on those basics that we talked about. Those are the 90% of the work that you're going to do to get the most amount of actual effect on your website. Just sticking to those basics is what's going to get your website to where it needs to be. And then once it's at that point, and once you're done with all of those basics, that's when you can move on to those little 10% of advanced stuff. Okay. But don't get caught up in it would be my biggest advice.
Okay, great. Yeah, and then lastly, I wanted to just talk about how to test if it was successful. If you decide to try out one of these things and you're not sure if it worked, how will you know how much it worked or did it work? And so there's lots of ways to test things. The simplest way is just to simply make sure you're monitoring your conversion rate, right? And so you would say, well, how much traffic did I get in a set amount of time? And how many people filled out a quote form in that same amount of time? And that would be your conversion rate. And then you can take it steps farther. You can say, well, how many of them actually booked? How much revenue did I get from all those people during that time? And so you can look farther down the conversion funnel for those types of conversion rates. Probably the simplest one is just to look at how many leads did I get versus how many unique visitors did I get in that same period of time. And so you can just simply compare one after the other. Now, one downside is that if you've made 10 changes at the same time, you won't know which one actually helped you improve or helped you get worse. And so you can do things like A/B testing and stuff like that. But it can be very complicated. If you're testing a simple web page, like a home page, maybe not too bad. But if you're trying to test, do I have pricing on or off? A lot of times you have to almost make a copy of your site and then test one site versus the other. There are tools out there that will help you with that stuff. I know if you use Google Analytics, they have a conversion optimization tool on there built in that you can use. And I know there's WordPress plugins as well. If you search for A/B testing, that can help you do some stuff. But in general, if in my experience, you just got to go with your kind of your gut feeling on it. I don't know. What do you think, Phil?
I'm with you. In my experience, 90% of the stuff you're going to go out there and find on the internet that talks about these testing tools is more hype than reality. To me, the quickest way to get results is just simply to go on to Rental Pros or any of the other Facebook groups and really just put your website out there and ask for advice. Have real people look at it. If you want to do something a little bit more formal, you could look into something like usertesting.com and have actual users go out there and test it, and you can get actual analytic results back from them. But to be honest, for anybody who's not $1 million and up business, that is even overkill. At the end of the day, this stuff is common sense. Just have enough people look at it, and you're going to get a good sense of where you need to go.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've used user testing before, and then I don't know what the price is now, but it was something like $50 for 3 different tests. You can say, hey, I want you to go to the website. I want you to get a quote for a bounce house, and just talk through the process. And then they'll kind of talk as they use your website. And, with 3 or 4 people testing it like that, you'll get feedback real quickly, like, oh, they couldn't find the button, or, oh, they didn't know how to find the menu, or whatever. So it can provide real quickly that kind of feedback. But
And the great thing about using something like Inflatable Office is most of the time that they are going to be on your site is going to be on the pages that we've designed, like category pages, product pages, quote page. And we've already done all that work for you. So, you really only have to worry about this on your homepage anyway. So it's really not much that you guys as website owners have to worry about in that regard. Just the little changes you guys might want to make on home pages or other pages like that.
Cool. Yeah. And so if you aren't measuring your conversion rate, I'd recommend you get that going.
Absolutely.
Google Analytics is free, and there are WordPress plugins that you can use to just plug in the codes for that stuff, and it'll start tracking. If you need help getting it set up, reach out to your web developer and get that going. We also track it in Inflatable Office as well. There's a conversion funnel that you'll be able to use to show you your visitors versus conversions and all that stuff. And you just got to make sure that's in place as the first step, so that as you make changes, you'll be able to see if they're in the positive direction or not. And so, and like I said, with A/B testing and multivariate testing, a lot of times when you do these different experiments or things, you want to make sure that you're making significant enough changes that it'll actually impact things. So changing the color button from green to orange for your CTAs is probably a waste of time. It might take a year for you to see the results of it. And so when you're trying out ways to improve, you don't have to test the little stuff, just do it. If you're going to test things, it's got to be pretty significant. But anyway, I hope this was helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. We'll go ahead and answer those now. All right. So Anthony asks, do you have a sample site that is not inflatable oriented, one for wedding and events? Well, most of our templates are either inflatable related, or we have more general type ones. If you go to rentalwebsite.io, you'll be able to see our themes on there. And there are a few that are more general or more event-based that you can look at. Of course, you can get one that's built to whatever style or theme you want as well. Let's see, is there any other comments I missed here? I'm only seeing like 5 comments out of 8, but hey, if I missed your comment, or if you want to leave it after the live play, we'll just get to those at the end. So I thank you guys for your time, and we got some more webinars planned for after IAAPA. It won't be until December, but if you need any help personally from us, feel free to reach out. So thanks.
We're always happy to help.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.